Off the west coast of Ireland, the sea answered to one name, Granuaile. Grace O'Malley, the Pirate Queen of Connacht. She was born around 1530, the daughter of a sea chieftain. Her father ruled the coast of Mayo with a fleet of ships. The O'Malleys lived by the ocean and took their wealth from it. As a girl, Grace begged to sail with her father to Spain. They told her no. Her long hair would catch in the ropes, so she cut it off. They mocked her and called her Granuaile, bald Grace. The name stuck, and so did the lesson. She would not be told no. She learned the tides, the stars, and the hidden reefs of Clew Bay. She learned to command men twice her age. At 16, she was married to Donal O'Flaherty, a fierce clan heir. They called him Donal of the Battles, and battle was all he knew. She bore him 3 children and ran his ships while he made war. When Donal was killed in an ambush, the clan expected a quiet widow. Instead, she took command of his men and his fleet. His enemies came for his castle, certain a woman could not hold it. Grace held it. Besieged and low on shot, it's said she tore the lead from the roof. She melted it down and poured it boiling on the men below. Then she lit a signal fire to call her ships, and the siege broke. She sailed home to Clew Bay and built what no widow was meant to have, her own power. She raised a fleet of galleys and a private army 200 strong. From Clare Island, she ruled the western seas. Ships that crossed her waters paid her a toll. She would board them, take her share, and let them sail on. The English called it piracy. She called it the custom of the sea. She took a shipwrecked sailor as her lover, pulled half-drowned from the rocks. When a rival clan murdered him, she hunted them across the water. She stormed their castle at Doona and took it for her own. They began to call her the Dark Lady of Doona. In her late 30s, she married again, Richard Bourke, called Iron Richard. By the old Irish law, she wed him for 1 year and a day. Some say she wanted the man. Most say she wanted his castle. When the year was up, the story goes, she barred the door and kept the castle for herself. From the Tower of Rockfleet, she ruled Clew Bay unchallenged. But her most famous story happened on the deck of her own ship. Heavily pregnant, she sailed her fleet into open water. There, at sea, she gave birth to her son, Tibbet. The very next morning, Barbary corsairs fell on the convoy. Her crew was losing, and her men called for her below deck. So she rose from her childbed, a day-old son behind her. She climbed up with a musket and threw herself into the fight. The corsairs were beaten off, and the boy was named Tibbet of the Ships. But the world around Grace was changing. England was tightening its grip on Ireland, castle by castle. Where Gaelic chieftains once ruled themselves, English governors now ruled them. Grace bent when she had to, and fought when she could. Once she was captured and thrown into the dungeons of Dublin Castle. She came out harder than she went in. Sailing home, she stopped at Howth and walked up to the Lord's castle. She found the gates barred and the family already at dinner. Insulted by the broken welcome, she seized the Lord's grandson on the shore. She sailed away with the boy and named her price. From then on, the gates of Howth must never be shut at dinner, and a place at the table must always be laid for a stranger. To this day, that promise is said to be kept. Then came the man who would become her greatest enemy, Sir Richard Bingham, the English governor sent to break the West. He called her the nurse of all rebellions in the province. He hunted her ships, seized her cattle, and burned her people's support. He had her eldest son, Owen, killed by treachery. He left the Pirate Queen, in her own words, close to ruin. And in 1593, he reached for the last thing she had, her sons. Bingham arrested her son Tibbet and charged him with treason. He jailed her half-brother in the same stroke. Grace was past 60 now and stripped of almost everything. She had one card left to play, and it was the boldest of her life. She would go over Bingham's head to the one person above him, to Elizabeth I, Queen of England. Grace set sail down the length of Ireland and across the sea to England. She brought her own ship up the River Thames to Greenwich Palace, a hunted pirate sailing into the heart of the empire that wanted her dead. In the autumn of 1593, two old queens stood face to face. One ruled an empire, the other ruled the waves. Legend says Grace refused to bow, for she owned no Queen of Ireland. The guards found a dagger hidden in her clothes. She said it was for her own safety, and Elizabeth let it pass. By tradition, the two shared no language but Latin, and so in Latin they spoke. When Grace sneezed, a lady offered her a fine lace handkerchief. She blew her nose and threw it straight into the fire. In Ireland, she told the stunned court, a soiled cloth is burned, not kept. Two rulers, taking each other's measure, neither willing to kneel. And against every expectation, Grace won. Elizabeth ordered her sons released, and Bingham called to heel. The Pirate Queen had sailed into the Lion's Court and sailed out free. She returned to her sea, old but unbroken. Bingham dragged his feet, and the promised peace never fully came. But she had stood before the most powerful monarch in Europe as an equal. Grace O'Malley died around 1603, the same year as Elizabeth herself. The two queens left the world within months of each other. She was buried on Clare Island, in the abbey above the sea she ruled. No portrait of her was ever painted while she lived. But Ireland never forgot the woman who would not be told no. Granuaile, chieftain, mother, rebel, and pirate queen. The English wrote her down as a pirate. The sea remembered her as a queen. Thanks for watching. If this is the kind of story you want more of, subscribe. There's a new one every week.